Hello, I'm Michael Redmond, professional Go player. In this video, I'm going to be talking about White's attachment at the start point against Black's two-space corner enclosure. And you might see that there's a preparatory move that White has played at M17. So that's a part of the equation here. So in a previous video, I talked about Black responding underneath with a Hane at Q17. And in this video, I'm going to talk about Black playing at Q15. So I will put a link to the other video in the description for this video, so you can watch that later. One important thing about the, you might say, Joseki that follows this move is that when White plays towards the corner with a Hane at the 3-3 point, and this is White's strongest local move, when White plays here, there is immediately a ladder involved. So let's take a look at it on the full board just to check out the ladder. Okay, here we are. If Black cuts here and White escapes, it immediately involves a ladder when Black plays here. So there's this ladder heading diagonally out into the center of the board, something like that. You can see that it's going to hit White's start point in the lower left corner. So the ladder is not going to work for Black. White's going to be able to escape this ladder. Actually, it's a kind of a shortcut. If you have ladders like this that cross the whole board, the center point, the point in the center of the board, is pretty much equivalent to the start point. So you can sort of imagine that there's a white stone here when you read the ladder, and it's going to have the same effect as the start point in the lower left corner. So that's one way to sort of make a shortcut there. Okay, let's go back to the local position and look what happens next. So this is actually a variation that could happen. White will escape, and White is threatening to play a double Atari on the right side there at R15, so Black has to protect that. And White will curl around once before cutting on the third line. So curling around here is the important move. After Black extends, White can cut here. This is threatening Black's two stones on the upper side, and Black has to go after that stone in the corner. White can force with this. White is threatening to play its S17. And this is going to be a net. So White captures two black stones in a net and is taking a position on the top side of the board, the upper side. This is actually a pattern that is mostly seen in this Joseki, where White is trying to control the upper side of the board, basically improving this stone, building on this stone that White had to start with, and taking control of the upper side is White's objective. So let's take a quick look at that with the full board position. You can see White does seem to have kind of a structure, a territorial structure on the upper side of the board, which could develop into a big moyo. And White is giving Black the upper right corner and maybe the right side also. So that's a pattern that we're going to see again with this Joseki. It's basically the pattern that White is hoping to create. So back to this position, Black has cut on the third line, and we were looking at Black playing an Atari underneath here. So instead, let's look at Black playing an Atari from above. In this case, again, White will have to escape. Black's one stone is an Atari, so Black extends. And after this, White is just going to play all of the cuts that White can. Starts with this cut. White's going to cut at O15 next, but first White has to save the three stones. So White covers once, forcing Black to save the two stones, and then White can cut here. In this position, Black's going to have to do something about those two stones on the right of White 10, so Black jumps out. And you can see again, White is getting a position on the upper side, and Black is getting the right side and the upper right corner. As it was in the previous variation, this is a variation that demonstrates what White is trying to do here. Let's take a look at the overall position once more. So in this position, White has Sente, so White's going to add a stone to the upper side. And White has a moyo there. It's a pretty good territorial structure there. And Black has a position on the right side of the board. This is close to even, but I like it for White. White's accomplished the object that White set out to do. So this is the direction of play that white was trying to play in. I have a different move that I'm going to suggest for black as a move that you might try if you're in the position of black. So let's look at that one. So let's say white has played the attachment here, black has played a hane on the outside, and white has played to the 3-3 point here. I'm going to suggest that black's best shape move is to play a hanging connection on the second line. This is the good shape move. And when black plays here, white is going to connect. And black has a number of choices at this point. So this is where it gets a bit exciting. And I'm going to look at black's hane on the second line here. And one more move, which is probably the most dangerous looking move, a bit scary for white maybe, but this jump here is maybe not the best move for black actually. When black plays like this very aggressively, white should be ready to sacrifice the 3 stones in the corner. And in this case, the way white's going to do it is white's going to play a hane here and extend towards the center. When white does this, this is a threat towards black's stones on the right there. And white is also looking at the closing move at N15 from the left. So there's 2 points here on the left and the right that are interchangeable, or miai. So first let's look at black playing the kosumi on the left, poking out towards the center. It's a kind of a natural move that black would like to be able to play, but this is going to be bad for black. White can peep here and cover on the second line. And this is going to put those 4 black stones in great trouble. Black can start by trying to extend liberties, so black's going to try extending liberties towards the corner. Black will poke through once, just because after black makes the eye, white does have to protect the outside here, so white's going to connect. And now we have a corner situation, which is actually a very common race to capture position, where white has a tesuji of throwing in at T19. So this starts with black filling one of white's liberties. And it looks like white's going to have trouble filling black's liberties in the corner, but white can throw in here. And this starts a ko. So when you have a ko like this, which is, it's pretty big, it's more than 30 points, plus the strength of the outside groups. And so this is a very important ko. When you have a ko like this, the ko threats are just, they're not big enough. So if black starts a ko here, whatever black does, white's not going to answer the ko threats. So black can play anything. Black doesn't have any valid ko threats that are big enough to make up for the fact that white is going to finish off this ko and have this territory of something like 20 points. Plus the fact that black's group on the outside is really weak. And we started with a black corner enclosure. So locally this is a huge disaster for black. And it's going to be more important than any series of moves that black can play elsewhere on the board. You might recall that we started with a relatively open board. It was at the beginning of the game. And so black did not really have any decisive ko threats. So this is good for white. So back to this position. White extends. So this is the important move. And black has to do something about that group on the right. Black should probably start going after white's stones in the corner. So black can capture them with this move. And white will cover from the outside. So this is threatening a race to capture with white playing at P18. Black would still be able to win that race, but white would get to squeeze from the outside. So it's probably a good idea for black to play one move in here. And this is a point where the next move should just depend on how you feel about the position. So white can add a stone to the outside to make a connection for white's stones. For instance, if white played something like this, white would be completely connected on the outside there. So this would be a local safe move. Or it could be something like this on the outside. That would also be a relatively safe move for white to play. If we look at the overall situation here, the suggested move is for white to play here. Since white has a strong position on the upper side, any fight with black cutting white in the upper right corner is going to be playable for white. It's going to be an even fight. So finally, one more variation here. I'm going to say that when black plays on the outside and white plays in the corner, black plays here. When white connects here, if I have the black stones, I'm probably going to play here. So this is a good shape move, taking the corner eyes away from white, making what's pretty close to a living shape for black on the right side there. So it's a strong position black has on the right side, and allowing white to connect up to the side. And again, white doesn't really have to do that immediately. It's a good move for white to jump once here. This is again threatening p15. p15 is a move that comes again and again in this variation. So if black is going to try to capture white here, now again white's going to play here and is going to be able to squeeze black from the outside. So this would turn out something like this, and again white is getting a position on the outside and black is getting the corner territory, but it's not so big, something like 20 points. It's probably good for black to answer this towards the center. So this move would stop white from playing that hane at p15, and white would probably just connect towards the side. After which black can play away, probably find a big point to play. This is the sequence that I would suggest for both sides in this opening. And so let's go through the moves once more. White is attached at the start point. Black plays a hane on the outside. When white plays here, this is the good shape move for black. White connects, and black plays a hane in the corner. This move is maybe the surprise of this variation. It's not good for black to go after those stones in the corner. It's better for black to play here and allow white to connect underneath. Looking at it in the full board position, it's like this. Black could continue in the lower right corner with a move something like this. This would be one way for black to continue. I wouldn't be surprised if we saw a computer suggesting jumping into the 3-2 point, maybe in the upper left corner. So black can continue in the upper left also. So that was my version of the Joseki for white attaching at the start point. Thank you for watching, and I hope to see you again.